Welcome to Age, Pension, Super and Retirement. I am your host Yvonne, and as always, this is information only and not personal advice. Today, we will be looking at some more Facebook group questions, and to help answer them, I would like to welcome back Rebecca.
Thanks, Yvonne. It's nice to be back.
It sure is. Now, we're going to start with a question from Jenny and Peter, who are seeking advice. We have an investment property, have never lived in it. We currently live in a granny flat on our daughter's property, wondering when we retire what would happen if we keep things as they are, living with our daughter and renting out the investment property. Is our investment property classed as an asset for the pension? What if we moved into the investment property and made it our home?
Okay, so there's a few things in here. I chose this question sort of as a launch board for talking about a few different things. So for the first question, is our investment property classed as an asset for the pension? Yes, it definitely is. When you apply for age pension or any other payments, you're going to need to list any real estate that you own in Australia, and they're going to ask you what's the value of that real estate and is there any mortgage against it? And based on that information, they're going to work out the value, the net value of it, so the market value minus a mortgage held against it, and that amount will be classed as an asset. Now, the interesting thing with this one is they're currently living in a granny flat. Now, depending on how that came about is going to determine whether Jenny and Peter are considered homeowners where they live in the granny flat or not. So you'd want to know, are they a part owner of the granny flat or the daughter's property? And if they're not a part owner, did they pay to construct the granny flat, or did they give a large sum of money to their daughter in exchange for a right to live in that granny flat? Because this sort of goes into what's considered at Centrelink a granny flat interest. Yeah, depending on how that came about, it's possible that, if they paid a large sum of money to their daughter to live in the granny flat, it's possible but that the granny flat is considered their own home for Centrelink purposes, which would mean that they're assessed under the homeowner asset test, which is a lower limit. If they didn't pay any money to construct the granny flat or to move into the granny flat, maybe they're paying a weekly rent amount to live in the granny flat, or maybe they're doing in-kind payments, like maybe they're looking after grandkids in exchange for living there. Maybe they're, doing odd jobs around the property. If there was no lump sum paid, then they would be considered non-homeowners, and that means they've got the higher asset limit. So it just sort of gives them a bit more space to get some age pension, even with owning the investment property. There's also some things, if they gave a lump sum of money more than 5 years ago, and then it makes it a bit easier to wipe that from the slate, because Centrelink sort of only looks at last 5 years for most things. Yeah, the investment property definitely is classed as an asset. The next question was, what if we moved into the investment property and made it our home? So if they did that, then it would no longer be classed as an asset. It would just be their home. And Centrelink would look at all their other assets, like their super, their car, their caravan, and determine what rate of pension they'd be eligible for. With questions like this, it's also important to point out that there's going to be a preference for Jenny and Peter, like where do they actually want to live? And you wouldn't look at it and go, well, which one gives me the most pension, living with my daughter or living in the investment property, making that our home? You don't just want to look at the amount of age pension that you're going to get in either situation. You need to look at the situation as a whole and, like, where do you actually want to live? Like, there's no point moving into the investment property if you don't actually like it or you don't want to live in that area. If you want to keep living with your daughter, then find a way to make that work. And that might mean keeping the investment property. It might mean selling the investment property and using the money to do something else. You want to look at the whole picture. How am I going to be able to afford to live where I want to live? And how does age pension fit into that?
That's such a great answer, Rebecca, and it's so true, isn't it? Just zooming out a bit, not just about the money, but where do you actually want to live and what suits you?
Exactly.
Now, our next question, Julie asks, I'm 59, single, and receive both carers payment and carers allowance. I want to retire at 60. I believe my superannuation is not classed as an asset until I turn pension age at 67. I will leave my superannuation in my super account and convert it to pension phase, where I no longer am charged tax. But I believe I have to withdraw a minimum amount each year. Is this correct? I won't need to draw a lot from super each year, maybe 20,000. I have 400,000 in my super.
Okay, very good. So let's go through this. So Julie's 59, she's single and she's on carer payment. She says she wants to retire at 60. So we'll assume that she is working as well as being on carer payment, which is definitely possible. The first part, I believe my superannuation is not classed as an asset until I turn pension age at 67. That is partially correct. While it's in accumulation phase, it's not classed as an asset. But when Julie turns 60, if she converts her super, part or all of it, into pension phase, then the amount that she puts in pension phase does become assessable as an asset. Yeah, she needs to be careful here. So she says she's going to keep her super in the super environment, convert it to pension phase where she's no longer charged tax, but she has to withdraw a minimum amount each year. So yes, that is correct. She has to draw a minimum amount each year, which would be 4% at age 60 to 64. And then at age 65, it increases to 5%. And then it goes up with different age brackets. So the older you are, the higher percentage is for the minimum drawdown. Yes, in pension phase, she would no longer be charged the 15% tax on earnings, and she would have to withdraw a minimum amount each year. It says she won't need to draw much from super each year, around 20,000, and she has 400,000 in super. That's, taking 20,000 out, that's 5%. So that's well within the range. So it's more than 4% minimum. So she can take 20,000 a year out. But I think there's a few things she hasn't figured out yet. And that is, if she puts the 400,000 in from super into pension phase, it won't cancel her carer payment, but it will reduce her carer payment because it's more than the asset-free area for carer payment. So for singles on a pension, the asset-free area is currently 321,500. So 400,000 is more than that. So her carer payment is going to be reduced if she puts the whole 400,000 into pension phase. She doesn't have to put all of it into pension phase. She could choose to put some into pension phase and leave some in accumulation. She would then be paying tax on the earnings on the portion left in accumulation and not paying any tax on earnings on the portion in pension phase. So she might want to figure out how much she wants to leave in accumulation, how much to put in pension phase, and look at how that plays out with the carer payment. Another thing with that one is, so carer allowance is paid with carer payment. Carer allowance is not affected by assets. It's only affected by income, and it doesn't taper with income. So it's just an on or off. If your income is under 250,000, you can get carer allowance. If your income is over, then you can't. Yeah, there's a few things in there, but so there's a bit of maths. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So you can't put all of your super in pension phase without it being counted by Centrelink. It's going to be counted by Centrelink. And also, you can't keep all of it in accumulation without paying the tax on earnings. So you've got to figure out, and if you're not sure how to figure this out, you can talk to the Financial Information Service at Centrelink, and they'll be able to work through a couple of different scenarios with you and look at, if you put this much into pension phase, this is how it would affect your carer payment, and this is how much you'd be able to draw versus, putting all of it into pension phase. And the Financial Information Service is a free service at Centrelink. If they can't give you the information that you want, they can't give advice. They give information but not advice. So if you can't quite get what you want from them, then you can pay a professional for financial advice.
Now, May asks, I'm 73 and I have a PSS defined benefit pension of $45,000 per year indexed to inflation. This is more than the maximum age pension amount. Does having the defined benefit pension automatically cancel out receiving a part age pension?
No, it doesn't. So this is one that probably people on a defined benefit need to know that they may be eligible for a part age pension as well. Now, I know that Gail has done an episode with you about defined benefit pensions, about what they are. Like, there's different types of defined benefit pensions, and this is just one example of them. And May gets $45,000 a year, a guaranteed income because of her previous work. And it's indexed to inflation. So every 6 months, there's a little uplift in the payment in line with inflation. So this is a really good thing to have in retirement. She's got a guaranteed income, and that's going to be really helpful for her future planning. And yes, it is. It's more than the maximum age pension amount. But the way the income test for age pension works is it's not a dollar for dollar reduction. So you can have income of more than the age pension amount and still get some age pension. And some people would kind of go, well, they don't really need that, do they? Because they've already got $45,000 coming in from somewhere else. But that's the way the rules are written out. So you can still get a part age pension even when you have other sources of income. This doesn't mean she definitely will get a part age pension because they're going to look at her other assets, any other income sources that she hasn't mentioned here in the post. But it's definitely something she should look at. She can put in an application for age pension and she'll have to list all of her other assets and income. She's not said here whether she's partnered or not. If she's partnered, her partner's income and assets are going to come into it. And, that may mean she's eligible, or no, she's not. And the other thing with defined benefit pensions, so most of them have a tax offset or a discount because of a tax-free amount in their pension. So even though it's listed as like she's getting $45,000 gross per year, Centrelink usually don't assess the full amount of $45,000. They usually give a bit of a discount. It's up to 10% for most people on a defined benefit pension, but there are some other ones, special defined benefit pensions, that actually have more of a discount. Long and short of it is she should apply. She may be eligible for a part age pension, which would help with, she'd get a pension card with that and a bit of extra money to help her live her lifestyle.
It's super helpful, Rebecca, and there are quite a few of our group members that seem to have the defined benefit pension. Thank you. And finally, Greg asks, I'm 70 on a part age pension. My wife is about to turn 67. Will my wife's accumulation super affect my part age pension, even if she decides not to apply for the age pension? And how could Centrelink know?
Yeah, here's a good question. So I feel like Greg and his wife might be trying to get around the rule. So the rule is, while your partner's under 67, any super that they have that's in accumulation phase is not counted for Centrelink purposes. But as soon as they turn 67, that's when the rule changes. And it actually doesn't make a difference whether or not the younger partner applies for age pension. Some people, and I feel like Greg is kind of saying, well, if she doesn't apply for age pension, then maybe we can just get away with it because, we won't have to tell Centrelink about her super. But that's not the case. They still do need to tell Centrelink about the wife's super. I mean, really the best thing is probably for her to apply for age pension too. You can give all the information to Centrelink and then she'll get a part pension. Probably will get a part pension too. It's possible that her super is enough that the combined amount is going to be over the limit for age pension. If that's the case, then Greg's age pension would cancel as well. Their pension cards would cancel, but they may be eligible for the low income card and or the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card. So if they're looking at losing their pension because the wife is turning 67, it's not the end of everything. They can probably still qualify for those concession cards. And then down the track, as they spend their assets, or maybe there's a change in circumstances, maybe they move house and have a different value house, or maybe one of them has to go into aged care. There may be some change of circumstances that means that their assets become under the limit for age pension. There's a few things there about what happens when the younger partner turns 67. Now, you can't just not tell Centrelink and hope you get away with it. How would they know? So Centrelink know the age of your partner because you would have told them about your partner when you first applied for age pensions. They know that you've got a wife, and they know that when her birthday is. At some point, they're going to realise that the wife has turned 67 and we haven't heard anything from them. So, we're going to figure out what amount of super is there. Most people do the right thing, and when there's a change in circumstances, like the wife turns 67, they will update Centrelink and advise them of the change. So, like as a society, we do rely on people doing the right thing. So Centrelink, they might not know straight away, but they usually do eventually data match and figure it out. And if you decide not to tell Centrelink about your wife's super, at some point they're going to figure it out and they're going to issue you a debt for all of the age pension that you received that you're not entitled to. You'll need to figure out a way to pay that back. The best thing to do is just to be honest and give them the information that they need to adjust your pension appropriately.
That's such a great answer, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Now, as always, this was information only and never personal advice. For our international listeners wishing to join our Facebook group, the code word is YELLOW. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Yeah, you're welcome.